3, 2, 1. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. And today, a little mini episode. It is just me, Marissa, here. And the reason being is because Christina has officially gone into labor. And I don't know how many details I am allowed to disclose at this moment. So that's all I'm going to say. But basically, going to do a little short episode for you guys on just a concept that I've been thinking about lately. And that is why it's actually really important to earn your right to a fat loss phase. So first, I just want to break down what exactly the heck that means, because you might be like, what do you mean earn a fat loss phase? Like, isn't that just something you do? And so when I say earn your fat loss phase, I'll kind of use a scenario to explain this. So what most people tend to do wrong is they start with fat loss right away. Every time they decide to get back on track or to take control of their diet or change their health, it's always just starting with a fat loss diet, right? Whether it is keto, Atkins diet, Whole30, paleo, doing something kind of crazy, kind of unsustainable to jumpstart the process, right? Because progress to most people just means losing weight. Now, there's a lot wrong with that. And we're working really hard here at the BLP to change the narrative. But the problem here that I'm going to focus on is the fact that starting with fat loss means that there have been no habits or foundation built prior to actually doing a cut, doing a fat loss phase. And so this leads to choosing something that's totally unsustainable because it's just going from diet to diet to diet, right? So anytime we're getting back on track, we're just doing a new diet, whether that's 1,200 calories or 1,500 calories or a specific method, but it's jumping into fat loss right away. Now, the problem with this is that, yes, of course, someone might lose the weight pretty quickly because they are putting all their efforts into one basket. They are pushing really hard because they're motivated. Maybe they lose the weight. Sometimes people don't, but let's say in this circumstance, the people that are doing this, they do lose the weight. But the problem is they had no foundation that this fat loss phase was built off of in the first place. So the skills, the tricks, the tools that they're using, they're just doing things without understanding the why behind them and not having a foundation to fall back on. So what happens is after the weight loss, there's absolutely nothing to fall back on, because before doing a fat loss phase, it was just eat like crap, don't go to the gym, just generally living an unhealthier lifestyle. And so when there's nothing to fall back on, ultimately this means slipping back into old habits while trying to probably hold on to the quote unquote good habits. So like basically what this typically looks like is when someone's done with their fat loss phase, maybe they've lost the weight they wanted to lose, they achieved their goal, and they're done dieting. They have no idea what it actually looks like to just maintain that, because no one's defined maintenance for them. No one's told them, actually, you should raise your calories. Maybe you should do something a little bit differently or do less cardio. So what they try to do is just keep doing what they've been doing, assuming that if they do that, they'll just either stay the same or continue making progress. The problem with that is that there's a lot of a difference between what you need to do to maintain versus what you need to do to progress in fat loss or muscle gain. And just general rule of thumb, you have to do a heck of a lot less to actually maintain weight loss and maintain progress in general than it takes to actually achieve that progress in the first place. But people don't know that. So they try to stick to all the restrictive habits, the excess cardio, and the hard work that got them to where they were. But they're also done with their fat loss phase. So that means slipping back into old habits, like letting the weekends go off the rails, just self-sabotaging and having way more of their indulgent foods, or just saying, I finished my fat loss phase, so I can go back to my old habits now. And so then we are basically, and for most people, this ends up being just a really slippery slope of falling into the all or nothing mindset. Because if it can't be perfect, which it won't be because we're done with the diet, we don't have to be perfect anymore. It falls into, okay, well, maybe it's not perfection anymore, but it is, if I can't get it right, if I can't do all my cardio, if I can't hit my 1200 calories, 1500 calories for the day, then I might as well just binge and go back to all my old habits, because what's the point? I've already lost the weight. I should just be able to maintain it just by going back to what I was doing. So that is very, very dangerous. So people tend to slip back into those old habits, try to hold on to the good ones, but it's just so demoralizing, because when there's no motivation, why are we going to do those things? Typically, we don't when there's no like pressing motivation or deadline ahead of us, right? So that's a huge problem. And so that is why today I'm talking about why you have to actually earn the right to go on a fat loss journey. And this is what we do with our clients. I'm sure Christina does as well. But basically, we don't just start our clients off with fat loss right off the bat. It's so counterintuitive to most people, because you think, oh, I joined a program so that I can start losing fat immediately. The problem with that is it's just, perpetuating that narrative that I just laid out. And we all can see now why that is so problematic. But what we do instead is we focus on things like, maybe it's reverse dieting, meaning when someone comes into the program, maybe they're already in that toxic yo-yo cycle of eating 1200 calories a day and binging on the weekends. So that person doesn't need a diet. They need to raise their calories. And the only way we can be successful with fat loss in the future is actually by reverse dieting in the first place. So that might be something that we entertain depending on where they're coming from. It's all going to be context dependent. You guys know me. I'm always going to come back to the context, but it's all context dependent, right? They're going to reverse diet. They're going to need to raise their calories if they're coming in with really, really low calories and an inconsistent routine. Or if somebody is just totally brand new and they're like, I need to lose weight and I've tried all this random shit before, what we're going to really start off with is basic habits. So something like eating a certain amount of protein per day, something like drinking a certain amount of water per day, getting a certain amount of movement in per day. These things seem so simple, but they're so overrated, because people, or maybe the word is underrated. Underrated is the word. But they're underrated because people often think like, oh, there's no way I can make progress by like just focusing on one or two habits. But if you apply those things consistently, like, oh my God, you absolutely can see amazing progress just doing the really, really, really simple stuff. So stuff that we do to earn our fat loss phase is maybe we start by building those habits, building that foundation, or maybe we reverse diet first if this person does have a history with tracking their food and understands that to an extent, but they're just not doing it the right way. Either way, we have to build a foundation both in our life, in our routine, and metabolically. So I'll cover both of these separately. So metabolically, building a foundation for fat loss means being in a healthy place to actually cut calories. So reverse dieting is a huge part of that, because if we don't bring our calories up and actually eat what our true maintenance amount is, which most people underestimate, our true maintenance calories is comprised of not only our resting metabolic rate, but the energy that we expend with exercise, the energy we expend just freaking fidgeting and walking around all day, as well as the energy that we spend digesting our food. Like, we spend energy on so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And our daily energy expenditure is higher than most people assume because of that. So that's what we have to get up to. And most people who are eating 1200, 1500 calories, maybe for a guy, it's 2000, is way too low. And anybody who's been on that kind of a diet knows that it feels like crap. And the reason that it feels like crap is because it's not right for you, and it's not sustainable for your body, and it's not the right way to go about things. So reverse dieting physically is going to put you in a foundational state to eventually pursue weight loss. And also making sure that you're actually at a higher calorie amount for an adequate period of time. Like, sometimes people think like, oh, like, yeah, I'll just spend like a month or 2 months at calorie maintenance and I'll be good to go, right? But consider the context. how long have you been yo-yo dieting? How long have you been restricting calories and putting your metabolism under stress? Has it been a year? Has it been 5 years? Has it been 10 years? Like, then we might need to go back to the drawing board and just reevaluate here. How long do we actually need to spend at maintenance? And there's no right or wrong answer. Now, some coaches, and I used to subscribe to this more heavily, but honestly, it's such an evolving science that it's really hard to say. But some coaches will say, like, you should spend 1 to 2x the amount of time out of a deficit than you spend in a deficit. And I think generally that's a great rule of thumb, because it just perpetuates the idea that you shouldn't be spending the majority of your time dieting. If anything, it's 50% or less, which I think generally, again, is a great rule of thumb. But if there is somebody who does have a weight loss goal, and maybe they have been on this journey, I'm like at a loss for words here. Maybe they've been on this journey for like 3 decades, and they have been crash dieting. Maybe they've done everything under the sun, Weight Watchers, keto, over and over and over again. Maybe they've lost and gained the same 100 pounds multiple times. So for that person, is it realistic for me to say, okay, you've spent 3 decades doing this awful shit, we need to spend 6 decades undoing that damage? That person may not have 6 more decades to live. So obviously that's not the right answer. So then in that context, what is? And this is where we kind of go veer maybe away from the science a little bit and more towards anecdote and what has worked in the past for our clients and for people that we've seen. And really, the only answer I have for this is we just have to be hormonally and physically healthy. And we have to have all the signs of a well-functioning metabolism. And we don't know how long that's going to take. But signals include, one, let's say we, and this is all under the circumstance that we've reverse dieted, right? We've brought up our calories and we are trying to see when we're in a good position to diet again. So number one is you've brought up your calories and weight is stable, and you are not gaining weight on that higher amount of calories. When you reverse diet, there is typically a little bit of weight gain to be expected, just because you hold some water with carbs in your muscles, and you hold a little bit of water from inflammation from training harder. And generally there's just a heavier weight of food in your stomach when you eat more food. And of course, putting on muscle, right? So you got to expect a little bit of weight gain when you do reverse diet, but nothing that actually affects the way that your body looks. But basically here, what we need to look at is you've reverse dieted, your calories are up, you're not gaining weight after you've kind of hit that new set point. And also you're not killing yourself to maintain your weight there. So for example, I've had clients that have reverse dieted, their calories up really, really high, but at the same time, they're they're walking 15,000 steps a day, which for some, maybe they live a really active lifestyle. Maybe they work in a factory. I'm thinking of someone in particular, or they have a very active job. Then okay, cool, that's normal for them. But what about someone who works a desk job and they're just going on 1 billion walks a day so that they can expend more, so that they can eat more? That is a lot of effort, and that has to be a choice that you make of like, yeah, that's worth it to me because I want to eat 300 grams of carbs per day. But ultimately, if you were to take that away, nutrition would need to be adjusted to the new maintenance with that lower activity level. And generally speaking, most people probably don't want to do that. So what my recommendation is for being in a healthy place to start a diet is just make sure that your weight's stable in a way that you're not killing yourself with cardio or daily step count or just overall energy expenditure, right? Like you're training a normal amount of times. That could be anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 days per week, depending on what your goals are and who you are. And you're not hitting an absurd step count every day just for the sake of eating more food, right? So those things are in place. And then generally your energy and your sleep habits and your overall stress in life, those are things we have to take a check on as well. So when it comes to physically being in a good place to diet, it also means we want to make sure that our sleep is high quality, or as high quality as it can be. So we're getting 7 to 9 hours a night. We are sleeping through the night for the most part. We are waking up feeling generally well rested. We are falling asleep well. We're not having trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep. Any trouble with that is a sign of something is not completely right. Stress and stress management, we are not turning to food when we're stressed or, emotional, because we actually are getting an adequate amount of food throughout the day. We obviously psychologically want to prepare ourselves for a fat loss phase, because if we're dealing with stuff like that, a fat loss phase is just going to be literally throwing gasoline into a fire. Like, it is not helpful. So psychologically, we also want to be prepared for a fat loss phase. But yeah, so a lot of those habits and lifestyle habits are important to physically set yourself up for a good fat loss phase. And then finally, hormonally, like, it never hurts to get your annual labs. So strongly, strongly recommend getting an annual lab done, especially if you're really focused on your health and fitness and you've kind of been through the ringer with all this. It is a great idea when you're at calorie maintenance for a while to go get a panel done and see, like, is anything abnormally low or even kind of just trending on the low side? And if you're struggling with like your energy throughout the day or overall vitality for life, that is something to look at and just be like, maybe like something isn't entirely right here. And those are all signs that maybe it's not the best time to start a fat loss phase. Maybe it's not the absolute solution right now, but it could be later. So sometimes it's just a matter of waiting those things out until you are at that position, both physically and mentally, to start a fat loss phase, and with your habits. And with habits, knowing that you're ready to start a fat loss phase includes things like, one, training is a normal, regular part of your life. You have skill listening and feeling into your hunger, your fullness signals. You can honor those. You know the fundamentals of nutrition. You know what your meals should look like across the day. You generally have some sort of meal prep formation or plan for the week. You know how to structure your nutrition. Just generally what that healthy lifestyle looks like, and you live it out. The people that are ready to successfully achieve a fat loss phase are people that live out this lifestyle before they take the deficit, before they cut the calories, before they add the cardio. They're already doing the things, they're already living the lifestyle. Similar to like a contest prep, a really important thing that I've done with all of my contest prep clients is we can't talk about starting a contest prep until we have truly solidified the foundation of, do you live the healthy lifestyle that a bodybuilder lives? And then when we start prep, it's just a quick change in calories rather than totally uprooting our lifestyle and making a huge change. So that's a great example to show like what it should look like. It should just be like, okay, if we're going to do a fat loss phase, that means this week we just change our diet to this. And that's the only change we make. Versus if we are starting from scratch, we have no foundation, and we say, oh, I'm going to start a fat loss phase. Cool, I'm going to uproot my entire life to try to get this to work and just totally flip my life upside down to do this. That is not sustainable. That is not having a foundation. And that is not somebody who has earned their right to fat loss. So those are all the things that physically, mentally, emotionally, habit-wise, set you up to be in a good position to actually earn your fat loss phase. And when these bricks are laid, then and only then we can dive into a fat loss journey and actually be successful. So the next time you think about losing weight, just really consider the entire journey as a whole, and consider the lifestyle before just diving into something because you think it's going to be a quick fix. Because more often than not, if you just jump in to fat loss without building the foundation, without taking the time to build up those skills and have something to actually fall back on after and live automatically in that lifestyle, then you're going to have a lot of trouble after the weight loss. And I'm not saying that just out of my ass. I am saying that from experience of lots and lots and lots of people who maybe have maybe they did a fat loss phase and they were like, I'm good, I'm done with the coaching relationship, and cut it off cold turkey. Big mistake. And people who I know anecdotally have done contest preps, friends of mine that have done contest preps, and their coach didn't have a game plan for them after the fact, and they totally spiraled the other way after their show. So I've seen it happen. I don't want it to happen to you guys. So next time you're thinking about a fat loss phase, just really, really try to make sure you are ready in a physical, mental, and habit-based state to actually take on the stress of a dieting phase, because that's what it is. Fat loss is a stressor. A calorie deficit is a stressor. Weight loss is a stressor on the body. So we want to make sure we're well prepared for it and we have the foundation to fall back on. So that is everything for this episode that I wanted to go into. I wanted to keep it short today. So make sure to like the podcast and subscribe. No, that's a YouTube outro. But make sure to be subscribed to the podcast if you're new. I appreciate you listening. I have not done one of these outros before in a while, so you can find me on Instagram at Marissa Roy Fitness. You can find Christina at Christy Lynn Fit. Our information and Instagram handles are going to be down below in the description, and hope to see you back next Tuesday.